First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a really honor to be here and to present and to hear so many amazing presentations, but also to present what the Fund for Innovation is doing. Really short, the Fund for Innovation is the leading government organization investing in innovations and technological development for micro, small, and medium companies. We have 650 beneficiaries in our portfolio, a joint investments of 85 million euro, and we'll probably finish this year with joint investments of 100 million euros. Our mission is actually quite simple. We are working, we don't just want to, but we are working very hard to position North Macedonia as the region's startup hub. Everyone is talking about digitalization, innovation, and in a way we are all in a digital train. The question we have to ask ourselves, are we on the train that stops at every village and every station, or we are in the bullet train? We decided to get on the bullet train, and I'm not doing storytelling here, but we're doing things that I'm really proud of. 1 year ago, we launched the National Startup Council. For the first time, the government has a startup council, which includes members of all key stakeholders of the startup ecosystem. We spent the last 7 months defining what needs to be done now, because a lot of us are talking about national strategies 2030, 2040, 2050. I'm sorry, but I think we need to talk about tomorrow. We need to talk about next month, especially for startups. Startups don't have 10 years to become unicorns. And I'm really happy that we have the support from the Prime Minister and the Vice President of the government, because 2 weeks ago we launched the policy change paper that will shape and transform the Macedonian startup ecosystem, and includes a lot of law changes, law that look more like they're 19th century law, not 21st century. The National Startup Council actually finalized the digital nomad program. Now it's in the final stages. The law is on ENER, which is a system where the public can take a look at it. It's going to be adopted by the government in October, and hopefully by the end of the year in the parliament, and we'll start issuing digital nomad visas starting 1st of January 2022. The biggest responsibility that we have as a state institution, and we are one of the few, I think, government institution that has this problem. Based on a research by Startup Macedonia, which is the leading startup association, the fund supports 70% of the Macedonian startups, which is great for me, but depressing for the market, because it obviously says that there is not enough engagement from the private sector. So the last year, we've been really working hard to explain to the private sector and to engage the private sector into startup development, because I honestly believe that if we want to create a modern, unique story about North Macedonia, it's the startup and innovative companies that can do. Some of them are in our portfolio, some of them are doing global business, but all of them are creating a new image of what it means to be a modern economy, how a modern economy should function. So, as I said, the responsibility is great because we support 70% of the startups. So we started doing a lot of things to engage the private sector. We sat down with all the leading private banks, and we told them, listen, you have money, and you need to make it easier for startups to get loans. Because in Macedonia, if you're a startup, you depend on the fund or on your parents, or if you have some kind of inheritance, to get the funding. So I'm happy that we signed contract with 6 banks. With the Bank of Development, we are working on a new project that will easy the whole process of getting a loan from the bank on top of the financing that we give. We also launched the Corporate Innovation Program, which is for the first time the Fund for Innovation, together with the private sector, is investing in startups. Because we have a lot of big private companies in Macedonia which are not working with startups, which are not engaging with startups. And let's face it, if you want to be innovative in the modern economy, you need to have startups engaged. But the biggest thing that we are working on is a government-sponsored investment fund, which we will launch at the end of the year. It's going to be a 27 million euro investment fund focused on investments in startups and innovative companies. I will mention it's government-sponsored. The government is providing part of the funding for the investment fund, because in a way we want to be seen as an enabler of the startup ecosystem, not to control the ecosystem. The fund will have an international fund manager, which is going to work under EU regulation. Actually, in 2022, we're going to start a roadshow on acquiring a fund manager. So this is like a soft invitation to potential fund managers. So really, I mean, we have quite an ambitious plan. We cannot do it alone. The government obviously is here to support. The funding will continue, but we have to engage the private sector. We have to make it easier for startups to make it in North Macedonia, but also globally. And also we have to shift the conversation. Everyone is talking about the young people living in the country. No one is talking about the successful people. And we need to talk about them. And lastly, I mean, I would like to send a message to PayPal, because they're one of the few companies that are not present in North Macedonia. So I would also like to use this opportunity. We need companies like PayPal and Stripe to be present in the country ASAP in order to create this global modern story about North Macedonia. And that's my 5 minutes.
Perfect.